My name is Mark Chalmers, and I'm President and CEO of Energy Fuels. Energy Fuels is a unique company traded on the NYSE and the TSE, where we are a critical mineral company building a critical mineral hub that is built around the uranium industry as the largest producer of uranium in the United States, and recently, over the last few years, expanding into producing and mining rare earth elements, including heavy mineral sand deposits, which have monazite, rare earth, a feed for as a byproduct. So there is no company like Energy Fuels.
Mark, Mr. Chalmers, good to see you. Wow, what an exciting market. We are going to talk uranium, and we are going to talk the fact that you are one of the probably couple of producers in the US at the moment. But I got to start with the rare earths. We saw recently Department of Defense, US Department of Defense, and Apple make investments into MP Materials. You had quite a stellar reaction to that. Why is that?
Well, I think the realization is that this critical mineral focus, the requirement on these critical minerals, the dependency on particularly China and other countries, and they're necessary for these modern technologies moving forward. And I think that we're responding because people realize that for the last 5 years, we've been adding to our company a number of significant world-class assets globally that are perfectly placed to address these shortage of these elements. And I think people are recognizing that. I think people have been a little bit confused because the uranium business, the rare earth business, what are we? Well, we're a critical mineral company, and we are building a strategy of commercially being able to produce 10 or more critical elements at low cost structures.
Right. But what is it that the Department of Defense, what's the problem they were trying to solve? What is it that Apple wants? And why have they gone to MP Materials? And I guess more importantly, given the response in the share price recently, what is it that you think people believe that you are going to be able to deliver?
Well, I think that people believe that Energy Fuels has positioned itself really well to potentially be in that you don't want to use the word gravy train, but at least getting recognition from the U.S. government or the Australian government, the European Union for support. Because if you want to break the dependence on China, you have to start by getting materials from someplace other than China. And so I think that when people see, that there are some price floors put in and some investment and some loans and whatnot, and recognizing that the current, price of NDPR is too low for Western producers, that the governments are responding. They're responding because they recognize they have to support some of our these companies that have advanced their strategies. Now, we have always built our company around, that we didn't need government support, but let's put it this way: it certainly would be appreciated for the right support, and it is also helpful in insulating from any influences from China. So we're rolling forward full speed ahead. We're spending a lot of time with our government relations. People know who we are. People appreciate who we are, appreciate what we've accomplished in a short period of time, and our capacity. As you said, U.S. over $2 billion market cap, 250 million-ish of working capital, and a building very material revenue stream on the uranium business. We've got a lot going for us right now and a lot of momentum.
Okay. Are those new shareholders who've been buying into you, are they right in thinking that you can do what MP Materials does in terms of product, whether it be lights or heavies? Can you do what they do in terms of process? And I guess ultimately, geopolitical alignment as a U.S. company.
Well, I think that, we've been saying that we're building world significant scale. And with the projects that we acquired the expansions that we're proposing at White Mesa. And it is the scale of Lynas or MP over time. So people can see that we're building that out. We're really the third largest publicly traded company that I know of, behind MP and Lynas. Energy Fuels comes in sort of third in that pecking order. And they've just seen the assets that we've secured, the plans that we have, and the saleable product that we produced. Okay, because we have commercially produced NDPR, and we are recovering DY and TB right now in the heavies. Now, the one thing that we do have that I'm very proud of is that we have heavies in the Donald project that we have in Australia, and that was just announced a couple of weeks ago that is fully permitted. And that is something that none of these others have right now, is a heavy mineral sand, heavy rich deposit, fully permitted, just subject to financing. And that's something that we think puts us in a very unique position in this space.
Okay, so dysprosium and terbium as heavies, and I'd love to know a little bit more about what you actually think you've got down at Donald as well. Why is that important? Why are heavies, are heavies rarer than lights?
Well, China has a stranglehold on the heavies right now, and it's really we're heavy light globally, and the heavies are really used to improve the resistance to heat issues in these permanent electric motors. So there's a bigger shortage of heavies than there is the lights, which is really the NDPR. So what it represents for us is having a project, which is a heavy mineral sands project, that also has this monazite with a byproduct of very high grades of heavies and xenotime. So it just puts us in a spot where others are not. And we did a release just last week, and I mean, it really orders of magnitude greater than a lot of other deposits outside of China in terms of the heavies concentration in the rare earth feeds that are in that deposit. So we're just well positioned, Matt, with a permitted in a good jurisdiction in Australia, and it's a joint venture with Astron, but we get 100% of the rare earth feeds that can be processed at White Mesa.
And so what I'm assuming, because the heavies are rare earths, is there more margin to be had there? Is that why you're excited?
Look, at all these things, if you're competing head on with Chinese, can be difficult. Okay, just because they're rarer and more difficult to find doesn't mean that there's always a huge economic margin. But when there's a shortage of these products, and you've got a country like China imposing restrictions on those products, and those are required for the best, highest efficiency electric motors, what does price matter, right? I mean, you need those materials. Now, we still see it as a very economically attractive project, but it's even more attractive in the fact that it's got decades of mine life, large land position, and as I said, a permit. So, and in Australia. So, yeah, I mean, right now, we're advancing towards a final investment decision, a FID, on that project, but we still have to secure financing, and it's in a really unique position in that regard.
Okay, and just sticking with the kind of US for a bit. Now we'll come on to some of the other projects globally, Brazil, Australia, etc. In a second, but it's one of those things I don't think you can sort of promote or kid your way to. It is a contract with DoD or investment by the DoD. You've got to be able to actually deliver. I kind of feel there's an expectation from the market's response that people believe that you can do that. Can you sort of talk through where you're at in terms of that kind of vertical integration process that you're going through, or I guess in short-term midstream processor, it's positioning that you're going through at the moment, and kind of what's the end game is?
We're doing these feasibility studies on totally our finalizing moving towards a FID decision on Donald and a feasibility on White Mesa Mill. I mean, we've proven we can do separations of NDPR commercially. We've proven ourselves. But so how we're positioning ourselves is that, one, we've proven we've done it. We've got these projects permitted. They can be developed. We've got the backup documents giving an indication of the economics for the capital and operating costs, timelines, all that stuff we're putting together. Now, but having said that, a lot of companies that have received aid from the government haven't proven it yet either. Okay, they haven't proven it. So, and we have in a lot of these steps. So, I mean, our end game is whether it be commercial financing or a combination of U.S. government, Australian government, or elsewhere funding, that we can get these projects up and rolling, and hopefully with some floor agreements, backstops that give us the protection and the incentive to develop these projects. I mean, MP isn't going forward without those kind of supports already. I mean, they need those supports to go forward. And in our case, the whole of our strategy is very, very cost competitive. We think one of the most cost competitive strategies out there in the world. But in the early days, when you're building these projects out, certainly have support on non-recourse financing, some floor prices, a real huge kickstart if we can secure that, however we secure it.
I mean, I guess you, having built a few things in your time, you're probably conscious of some of the kind of the pitfalls, as it were. So just sticking with the rare earths for now, we'll come on to uranium in a second. Is when you sort of look at the lessons through your career, your thoughts on building pilot scale, pilot scale plants as you've got for the lights and the heavies on the rare earths. You're doing that so that you can, I guess, achieve qualification. So are you achieving qualification standards in terms of purity, recovery, possibly even throughput, scale at the moment? And how do you go about qualifying?
Well, we're currently sending out the NDPR oxide for qualification, and we've got a number of parties, including POSCO, have taken material from us, and it's all very appealing to them because we believe that it all meets their specifications. The heavy separations that we're doing at lab scale, that's still a work in progress. And so it takes some time there, Matt. But I think the key is that we're doing it. Okay, we're doing it right now. People can see it progressing, and we're very, very, very comfortable with the lights. And as I said, we're producing DY as we speak. We put in our press release. We're moving to TB on that. We've got the knowledge with the solvent extraction. We've got a project that is fully permitted to do that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but we are doing more than others right now. I mean, we're doing it. We can show people right now what we're doing. You can see it. You can touch it. You can go look at the NDPR. You can look at the bags of separated oxides. You can look at the bags of monazite. You can see it, and you can track it right on through a plant. You can see that we've got Bar Engineering working on a phase 2 separation plant, which is the scale of Lynas, 6,000 tons of NDPR per year. So, but a lot of these other companies haven't done anything yet. They're making promises, but they haven't done it. And the realization is that we're doing it right now. We're doing it right now.
Okay. Let's talk about Donald, and let's talk about Chemours, and let's talk about Bahia. There's a lot of optionality that you've built up. We shouldn't forget Toliara in there as well. There's a lot of projects that have been acquired, contracts that have been signed, and a lot of feed that could go into White Mesa Mill. In terms of the number of lines that you can have going at any one time, how does the sequencing work when these projects get financed and start feeding into the mill? And will you be ready?
We've got the phase one rare earth separation plant that's operable. Currently, the uranium plant is operating, so we can switch that back and forth. So right now, we're working on how we can sequence, because the White Mesa Mill is hungry, and it can produce a lot of uranium in 6 months or 7 months or 8 months. So we're just looking at, and we haven't publicly announced how we're trying to jockey that, but we're planning on sort of campaigns of uranium, campaign of rare earths, campaign of uranium, and do that over the next few years before we have the phase 2 plant fully permitted and constructed. Okay, so the good news is that we have the ability to keep that mill fully occupied on those feed streams over the next few years, which is a great stepping stone. When we get out, like 3 years' time, we'll have 2 separate plants. We'll have the uranium plant, and we'll have the rare earth plant, and they'll be able to operate simultaneously without having to flip-flop them back and forth as required. So what we have is a strategy that includes a cash flow to get to the next cash flow, which is the phase 2, okay, which is at world significant scale. I mean, even when we call phase 1, it's world significant scale, but it's smaller world significant scale. So I think one of the keys is just the fact that we can be generating a cash flow as a company with what we currently have constructed, and what currently operates right now.
Let me come back to the beginning almost. Department of Defense, they've got a lot of money. Companies like Apple have got a lot of money, and they're trying to, secure the kind of future needs. We've seen groups like Google and Meta also come in on the energy side with, uranium as well. The landscape for financing seems to have evolved very dramatically in the last, I'm going to say, year. Do you see that? Do you appreciate that? And what are your expectations going forward with these certainly on the tech companies moving upstream, as it were, for these critical minerals?
Well, I think it shows that they're starting to panic, right? I think it shows that they're trying to take a position before somebody else takes a position ahead of them. I think when you look over the past, like back in the 70s, a lot of the utilities, took positions in uranium projects. Okay, the same thing is kind of happening, in a slightly different way. It's not just utilities; it's the tech companies that realize they need the power, they need the baseload energy. It bodes well for the interest and the realization that you're going to need material quantities of whatever it is, and a lot of companies are trying to go upstream to get their position now, because they're afraid there will be no position later if they don't move. So the number of interesting dynamics here, and certainly we plan to capitalize on those dynamics as things roll out. And but right now, our ultimate focus is to be low-cost uranium producer, low-cost rare earth producer, and then look at the opportunities as they present on how we go forward. We can sequence things a bit. We've got a number of options on how we roll this out.
Okay, but how are you feeling sort of technically in terms of confidence? Has the current team got the ability to deliver on all of the above, or will you be, building that out?
Well, yeah, the technical team has the ability to deliver on this right now. We've proven ourselves in the uranium business. We've proven ourselves in what we've done in the rare earth business at the scale that we've been doing it at. But yeah, for phase 2, we brought in, Bar Engineering to help us with the bankable feasibility study there. And a lot of that is sort of by requirement because you got to have people sign off on these studies. So we have the skill sets. We've proven we can do it. And I think I've mentioned this to you before, but when you start looking at the scale up from like our phase 1 plant to phase 2 plant, it's like 5 to 6, 7 to 1. That is nothing in the world of scaling up a commercial plant. And one of the problems that people have had in the rare earth business is the scale ups didn't go so well. They weren't that kind of I mean, in our case, that's a very small ratio, but a lot of these projects get scaled up on huge multiples, and things don't work out. So we believe we've de-risked a lot of what we're doing by the way we've evolved over the last 5 years with the lab work, the pilot work, doing some of the separation initially, and ramping that up to the phase 1 plant and looking at phase 2. So yeah, we're absolutely in a better position than anyone I know outside of China.
Well, okay. Well, let's kind of see how the market moves for rare earths. Certainly back in fashion again, but as we've seen in the past, these things can go up violently and come down quickly when it's all about sentiment and talk and promotion. Doing it, as you say, is another matter, and I think potentially those companies get rewarded, in the long run. Let's get to uranium, or I'm going to get into trouble from your shareholders and others for not talking about it. So I got to start with Pinion Plane. Could you possibly even counsel it? So did you imagine the grades would be like that?
Look at Pinion Plane, man. As you know, I built that 38 years ago, and it got caught in the downturn of the uranium market and the litigation multiple times with the Supreme Court twice. We always knew it was the highest grade breccia pipe in the region, but we didn't know exactly how high grade and how significant it would be. Certainly, when you look at what we've reported over the last couple months or 3 months with the drilling and the production, the grades have exceeded my expectation, and the drilling results have exceeded my expectation. So I couldn't be more excited about that. After the 38 years, it was a long wait to get that ore to the White Mesa Mill. We've got the transport agreement with the Navajo Nation that's going very, very well. Developed a very keen supportive relationship with the Navajo Nation, which we're very proud of and happy with. But yeah, it's a fabulous deposit, and I believe it's the best breccia pipe mined in that region ever. There's been about 10 mined. I've mined like 3 or 4 of them myself previously in my career. We're just excited. So the grades are really high grade. That helps reduce the cost. And I think there's going to be a lot of good news flow on Pinion Plane for the next several years, because it's extraordinary.
That's interesting. Do you think, are you doing some work to try and work out see if that you can extend that? Obviously, these breccias do tend to be a certain size. Do you think that this will last a bit longer than you originally thought?
Well, I mean, I think we said in our press releases that the grades were, 2-3x greater than we had expected. We're still evaluating our drill results, but we have a what we call the main zone and the juniper zone, and there is a huge amount of unexplored opportunities in the juniper zone. And I think that, subject to our exploration success, I think it's going to extend the life on the project much longer than we had originally anticipated. So I just would say people should watch this space, watch the production out of Pinion Plane, watch how that gets complemented with production from the La Salle complex and alternate feed and whatnot. We've been telling the market that, we were ramping up from, and our guidance, I'm not prepared to change the guidance on a call like this, but, we ramp it up towards about the 1 million pounds. As I said, we're going to go to, targeting up to a couple million pounds. That's still in play. And but I also think that these higher grades, as we move forward, are going to be seen in a very strong way in helping reduce our costs. I mean, right now there's a lot of people struggling with the ramp ups of their projects and struggling with their costs. In our case, there have been increases in costs, people costs, reagent costs, whatnot. But one of the best ways to combat that was with higher grade, and that's what we're seeing at the Pinion Plane. Higher grade, and we just think it's got we're so uniquely positioned right now with that project and the other projects that we're advancing as well.
So why bother? If I'm looking around at a lot of the advanced developers who've talked a good game about getting into production and, well, the ability to get into production in 23, 24, 25, and haven't, are they playing the waiting game correctly? Do you feel that they're able technically to kind of solve the problems that that are ahead of them? I mean, how do you read the landscape? Shouldn't you just wait around like they do?
Well, as I said, it's easier to produce uranium at a cocktail party than it is to do it actually doing it. Yeah, I've been doing this for a lot of years, Matt. I mean, next year it's been 50 years I've been doing it. I think a lot of the companies are in trouble. I mean, I don't want to point out who's succeeding and who's failing, but I think a lot of them that are struggling know they're struggling and know that they've got challenges. And it's a hard business. I mean, it's, when we couldn't ship our ore across, well, we could ship it, but, in this issue with the Navajo Nation, it was preventing us from producing. We've resolved that. We've moved on. So I think there's a lot of people that don't have all the skill sets to build a project, operate a project, and do that economically. And I think that's going to all bear fruit over the next year or two or three, and it's already bearing fruit in some cases because there's been a number of companies that have had to kind of pull their horns in on their plants.
I think what's so interesting, and if I look back at some of the deals that have happened, obviously we work with ISO Energy, and you've been on with Phil, and with the Anfield transaction on I think it was ISO, and then obviously gazumped by UEC. Things like that. Those sorts of projects need to kind of get into production to kind of help companies deliver against some of the promises they've made on where they can process stuff. You and I have talked on many occasions about how you want to deal with companies that may want to do tolling agreements with you. There's not a lot of movement on that front. It seems, certainly with you. There's not a lot of movement on the front with Anfield that I can see, because that's $50-70 million worth of refurb required there. It's causing a kind of big bottleneck here in the US for actual production of uranium. I mean, something's got to give soon, hasn't it?
Yeah, let's see, you can put up or shut up, right? I mean, we are confident with what we've currently been producing and the ore that's being delivered to the mill right now, that we're going to deliver, and we're going to deliver. We expect to over deliver. Okay, that's our goal. It's always over deliver and surprise people on the upside. But yeah, there's going to be, and look, history says there's going to be failures. There were a number of failures in that 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10 run up. There's going to be more failures, and they're coming. I'm not wishing that on anyone, but it's hard, as I said. I think for your listeners, just watch how we produce uranium, looking out over the next several years, and you'll see that we know how to do it, and we know how to do it well. We're excited about it. And we got a lot of criticism when we were getting into the rare earths, people saying, well, you're getting out of the uranium business. Now, for me, showing the market that we didn't get out of the uranium business, and in a lot of cases, we're outperforming our peers on the uranium business, and we still have the rare earth business. Okay, we're not pretenders. We're building a company, Matt. We're not building a promotion. That's a big difference with a lot of companies. We're building a company with the capacity, with the cost structures, with the infrastructure, with the knowledge and the support, wherever it comes from, whether it's the government, financial markets, and we're not promoting. And if for those that have over promoted, it's time to deliver. It's time to deliver.
Yeah, I say, like, I have to agree. I think, investing in companies with strong fundamentals is always a sensible strategy. And it feels like the market is recognized what you've put together here. Obviously, as you keep saying to me, long way to go, some funding required on some of it, but you understand, there is a plan, there's a business plan, there is a strategy, and more importantly, the technical know-how to kind of deliver on that strategy as well. So, like, Mark, just wanted to reach out. I know you've been busy, especially after that reaction in the marketplace. Stay in touch with us. A lot more to happen this year, so we'll be delighted to speak to you again soon.
Will do, Matt. And as I said, it's been very busy, and but it has also been very satisfying for not just the company, but a number of our shareholders who have been with us through thick and thin, believing in the story, believing in how we're approaching things, to see them rewarded. And particularly over this last month or so, I think people are getting it. And now we're trading as a uranium and a rare earth stock. Let's just put some more pieces in place and let's just keep going.